They bought around for the sailor, and they heard his tale of a world that was so far away, and a song that we'd never heard, a song of a little bird that fell in love with a whale.
Welcome to Book Time with Ryan. I am Ryan, and you were just listening to Fish and Bird by nonfiction, who is one of the greatest banjo players living, sung by Aoife O'Donovan, whose voice I love. Why did I pick that song? Because one, I like bluegrass, and two, it talks about a whale, not a fish. That's what this video is about. Second, I would like to thank Bill Ruttenberg. 10 new people have subscribed to my channel today, and all because Bill gave me a shout out on his channel. So check out Bill Ruttenberg. That's Ruttenberg. His channel, I really enjoy it, and you will too. If you're new to this channel, today is going to be one of the nerdier videos that I'm going to do, and it's all about sperm whales and books. Books kind of about sperm whales. Why am I into sperm whales? This is how it started. And also, if you can hear my chair squeaking, my really good friend, Kyle, already told me that I need to grease this, or oil or grease, my chair. It's an old chair. It is squeaky. I'm going to try not to move, but I may move. What got me started on this, I had a series of books that I read. They were all Jaws in some way, shape, or form. Jaws the Revenge has a scene with a bull sperm whale that is attacked by the shark in Jaws the Revenge. It's not the same shark as the one from Jaws. Each shark dies in each book, in each movie. Jaws the Revenge is by Hank Searles. I read this book, loved it, and I got into Hank Searles. So, I read The Revenge. I thought, you know what? I want to learn more about sperm whales. And I Googled good sperm whale books. And one of the books I found was Sounding by Hank Searles. The main character is really a sperm whale. There are the two main characters. One is Peter Rostov, who is a submarine officer in the Soviet Navy. And the other one is a bull sperm whale, unnamed. And I would say that the bull sperm whale is probably, between the two, more of the main character. This is actually the second copy I got. The first copy I got of the book is this special edition, limited edition, first edition, many different editions, whatever, signed, and it's in a slipcase. And I love this. Is the one I actually read, and I loved it so much that I want to recommend it to other people. It's actually one of my favorite books now. I love this book. I loved it. And because I loved it so much, I got another copy that I would be willing to lend to people so they can enjoy this book too. From that search, I also was told about two nonfiction books. One is The Great Sperm Whale, A Natural History of the Ocean's Most Magnificent and Mysterious Creature. And I agree. This is by Richard Ellis, who also does a lot of paintings. This is a very accessible book. It gives some history. It goes into whaling a little bit. It goes into pop culture references. It's a good, I'd say, a good primer. And I really enjoyed it. This is the first book I read that was nonfiction on sperm whales. The next book I read was Hal Whitehead's Sperm Whales, Social Evolution in the Ocean. Now, Hal Whitehead is one of the most prominent scientists studying sperm whales. He's been doing it for decades. I've exchanged some emails with him. This book is from 2003. I have a book coming that's by Hal Whitehead and Luke Rendell. That is going to be more up to date. It's not just on sperm whales, though. It's on whales and dolphins. But this is specifically on sperm whales. It's very scientific. Different distribution maps, all these different tables in here. And it's a very thorough look. I think it may be dated, though. I don't know, because I haven't read anything that's scientific and more up to date. I will talk about what I've learned from this book and from Richard Ellis's book at the end of this video. So, that's how it started. I read Jaws, The Revenge, that took me to Sounding by Hank Searles. They're both by Hank Searles. Then I read 2 books that are nonfiction, really about the science behind sperm whales. Then I read, more recently, Beast by Peter Benchley. Peter Benchley wrote the first Jaws. There was not a sperm whale in the first Jaws. This is essentially Jaws with a giant squid. I really like the cover for this. I don't want to ruin it, but there is a sperm whale that plays a very significant part in this book. It was exciting to see that. If you're going to have giant squids, you're probably going to have sperm whales in a book. The lesson I've learned. What do you think of when you think of books on sperm whales? Well, most people think of Moby Dick. And so do I. So I bought Moby Dick. I had it in some Penguin edition, and I was not impressed with the quality of the cover. I felt like it was probably going to deteriorate pretty quickly. So I took it back and I swapped it out for Moby Dick. Another copy of Moby Dick. This one is still fancy, but it's kind of glossy pages, and it's sewn in instead of glued in. And I just think it's probably going to hold up better. This is a relatively thick book, and I've been told that it's difficult to read in parts. It's very thorough, and it's pretty factual in a lot of parts, although it's dated. I'm excited to read this. I'm hoping to buddy read this with Crystal, but it's going to be some time before we do that. I think technically it should have a dash in between Moby and Dick, because that's what Herman Melville did. Side note, the singer Moby, his middle name is Melville. So his name's also not Moby. I don't know what his full name is, but Melville is his middle name. I found out about White as the Waves. This is a novel of Moby Dick by Alison Baird. This is from 1999. This is done from the point of view of Moby Dick, the white whale. I'm going to wait to read this book until I've read Moby Dick. Pretty difficult to find. I can only find one copy, and I found it on eBay. Kind of a true story. Moby Dick is fiction. A story that inspired Moby Dick by Herman Melville was In the Heart of the Sea. The book In the Heart of the Sea did not predate Moby Dick, but it's really talking about the tragedy on the whale ship Essex. There's a movie. Thor's in it, whatever his name is. In trying to find out how accurate the book's sounding was, and I think it's pretty accurate based off of what I've read, but you have to know that I'm not a scientist. I started off my time in college as a marine and environmental science major, but eventually became a government major. So there is some background, but not much. I reached out to a number of scientists to find out if they had read Sounding and what they thought of Sounding and how accurate Sounding was. They had not read it yet, but they put it on their list. And 2 of them, Luke Rendell, recommended his book, the one about whales and dolphins, which hasn't arrived yet, but I think should arrive this week. He worked with Hal Whitehead, and he's also very much a part of that scene. Because I was getting so into sperm whales, we subscribed to Disney Plus so we could watch. We have a 3-year-old, so it makes sense to have Disney Plus for the 3-year-old. But I wanted to watch The Secrets of Whales. And there's an episode about sperm whales, and one of the people in that is Shane Giroux. Shane and Luke are both responsive on Twitter, so I reached out to him. He runs a program called the Dominica Sperm Whale Project. I think sperm whale something. Dominica Sperm Whale something. 2 things. 1, they won an Emmy. Congratulations. 2, I always thought it was Dominica. I'm assuming that Sigourney Weaver knew how to pronounce it. So I guess it's Dominica instead of Dominica. There's a sperm whale project. They're tracking sperm whales in that area. That project is covered in this book, Becoming Wild, by Carl Safina. And Shane says it really the first third of the book covers their program. I have not read this yet. I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to dive more into sperm whales. I feel like I've got a good start. All I'm missing is formal education and experience. That's all such minor stuff. I saw it on the internet, so now I know everything about it. Richard Ellis not only wrote the first book that I showed you, but also wrote a book for children called Feisty, the true story of a young whale's rescue. He also illustrated it. And there's Feisty. I got this for my daughter into school, and I will pause here so you can see a picture of her presenting this book for show and tell. I don't know how to do the picture-in-picture, so I'm just going to pop it now. And now you're back. Feisty was a true story about a whale that was sick and beached itself on Long Island and eventually made its way to Fire Island. Researched it. They checked on what the problem was because he was sick and he kept trying to beach himself. He was a young whale. They believe he got better and he left. So what have I learned about whales? Specifically about sperm whales. This is going to get a little nerdy. This is just some of the stuff I've learned. And I would encourage you, if you don't care about sperm whales, find something that you don't know about and just dive into it. I really got into sperm whales. I still am into sperm whales. So sperm whales have brains that are 6 times the size of our brain. Now you might say, well, they're also much larger. But from the studies that I've seen in Hal's book, it has to do with energy usage and that you don't need to go off of proportion. Like, is a sperm whale's brain proportionally the largest? No, it's not. What gives a sperm whale its interesting look? Relatively inefficiently built as far as like hydrodynamics go, body. But what you're seeing mostly here, and this is why my picture for this video was me as a sperm whale with a giant nose, is this is essentially a giant nose. And what's in here is a spermaceti organ. I'm not going to go into all the little bits and pieces of it, but it's essentially a oil filled, and the oil is called spermaceti. It was highly valuable to whalers in the 1800s, and it was used for smokeless candles. So they would just kill the whale, cut off part of its head, and start dipping buckets in to take the spermaceti out. It's not totally known what it's for, but from what I've read and what I think, based off what I read, is it's really for echolocation. It's a device that's used to bounce off sound from the front of the nose, and there's a kind of like a lip body part that makes clicks, and sperm whales essentially communicate through clicks, almost like Morse code. They have clicks that they use that are coded to identify them, talk to others, communicate what's going on. They can also use it to locate prey, typically squid. Bounce signal would start here, bounce back. There's kind of a little curved area, and there's 2 air sacs, one in the front, one in the back. It would bounce off that and then go through this area that's junk. It's called the junk, and it also has spermaceti, but it's a different consistency. And then it would go out that way and bounce off whatever is out there to reflect. It would receive those returning sound waves, generally through the jaw, I believe. The jaw, you look at it and you think of pictures of a sperm whale attacking a giant squid and fighting it out at the surface. What I've read, it sounds like it's less of a chewing, attacking with teeth kind of thing and more of a sucking in. Now, they will take giant squid, but they take smaller squid. And Humboldt squid's not necessarily small, but it's a bigger part of the diet. There's also 2 or 3 foot or 1 foot squid that they'll eat a lot of. And they determine that by looking at their poop and seeing squid beaks in there and other parts of it. And they can also determine how good the eating is by trying to see how often they poop when they resurface. And they spend most of their time underwater. They will spend minutes up kind of hyperventilating or getting their breath back, and then they'll take a dive that's typically 45 minutes to an hour. About 15 minutes of that is going down, 15 minutes of that is coming up, and the rest of it is down thousands of feet. When you see these teeth, that's the male. They don't have teeth that protrude typically in the upper jaw. They have them, but they never erupt. They're always like in the gum, basically. Although it takes sperm whales a long time to get their teeth to come in. And that's why scientists also believe that they probably suck in the food instead of battling it and chewing on it, because they can find whales that have injured jaws that don't function properly, and they're well fed. So clearly they're eating differently. The sperm whale has one of the biggest differences between male and female bodies. The males are about 1.5 times the size of a female when they're fully grown. They become sexually mature, the males at about 25 to late 20s, and females typically around 10. And they become physically mature, the males, around 50. They can live to be 70 to 100. Now, whaling's affected a lot of it, and not the whaling that we think of. When we think of whaling, I think of whale boats riding around with people throwing harpoons, the stuff you would expect in the heart of the sea. The real peak of whaling was in the 1960s when there were explosive tip harpoons from whaling ships that would fire straight from the bows of the ships. And they had processing plants that were on the water too. The Japanese still have these. They shouldn't, but they do. And they exploit a scientific loophole. It's bullshit. With sperm whales, typically you will find groups of females and immature males, and then some mature males. When the males get to be older, they leave. They can go up to higher latitudes, which is towards the poles. Lower latitudes are closer to the equator, which is where you'll typically find the females and younger males. They'll kind of go off in these bachelor groups, colder, higher latitudes, and they'll spend some time there with the boys until they're ready to mate. They don't necessarily come back to mate as soon as they're sexually mature because they may not be as well equipped to compete with other males. There is some thought that it's really female selection. The females are the ones selecting which males they're going to mate with. And basically you have these kind of roving groups of females and younger males, and mature sperm whale bulls will approach them, hang out with them for an hour or two, possibly mate, and then leave. And they'll just kind of visit groups like that. It is going to take a long time for the sperm whale populations to increase because they have young between every 6 to 14 years or 6 to 20 years. It's hard to get your population numbers back up when you are reproducing so infrequently. It also puts a lot of pressure on those calves to survive, because it's not like they're pumping out a new sperm whale every 6 months. It's going to be a while. They're also very social. So not only do they spend a lot of time foraging for food, but they also spend hours a day socializing, where they will lay next to each other and touch and roll around and click. You've probably heard sounds of humpbacks. The sperm whales click, and there's different patterns, but it really is just clicking. And that's them talking. And it's supposed to be, although I haven't experienced that, pretty overwhelming if you're in the water while they're clicking, because it's very powerful, especially if they're doing directional sonar stuff. Echolocation, it's supposed to be pretty rough. And there is some theory that they can use echolocation, very strong pulses, to stun or kill their prey. I don't know if that's true because the stuff I've been reading is older, but it makes sense. If you can have LRADs incapacitate people in protests or riots, why can't a whale produce that? They create one of the most powerful sounds in nature. So, and it's all because of this structure up here in the spermaceti and the way they've evolved to do this. So, these whales form bonds. They have families. One of the reasons that they were so easy to kill at the peak of whaling was if one was injured, other ones would kind of rally around it and also become targets. And the whalers would just pick them off one by one because they weren't moving along or spreading out. They were kind of rallying around the injured whale. I've really enjoyed what I've learned. It's an interesting community. One of the things that's difficult when you're learning about a new subject is you have a wide span, a wide period that can cover what you're learning, and things change. So if I read a book from the 1800s that was the gospel truth at the time, by 1950, that's probably changed. If I read a book like Hal Whitehead's book from 2003, well, even in the amount of time since nearly 20 years since 2003, just the ability to track whales, do research, tag them, so much stuff has changed. So much advancement in technology. And I don't even know how it's impacted this, because a lot of the studies in this book are from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And now we're looking at 20 years later. Well, what has changed? And I don't know, because I need to read a more recent book. But that's what's really interesting about this, is not only have I felt like I've learned a lot about sperm whales, but I feel like there's so much more to learn. I really appreciated kind of the science community that I've reached out to just to pick their brains a little bit And I know that's probably annoying to have somebody who clearly is not a PhD student asking probably pretty basic questions, but they've been pretty receptive and responsive, and I like that because it helps me out. You know, like I am not gonna be a PhD doctor studying whales, but there's a lot that interests me there, and I really look forward to learning more and more. And that's gonna be reading some of the studies in Becoming Wild, watching more videos, reading Luke's book, Luke and Hal's book when that comes. Eventually reading Moby Dick and kind of getting the basis for fictional whale tales, at least when it comes to sperm whales, and then White is the Waves. Also, it's just a fun thing for me to get my daughter into. She likes this book feisty, but what we've discovered is her favorite whale is a narwhal, and my wife's favorite is a beluga. And so we've picked toothed whales, and the nice thing is belugas and narwhals are pretty closely associated, like as far as their ranges go. So they do interact, and you know, I'm very happy with where I've come, and I look forward to where I can go with this. It started with Jaws and Hank Searles, but it was really fueled and went into overdrive with Sounding by Hank Searles. And what I want to recommend is all these other books are great, and if you are thinking about getting into sperm whales, awesome. But if you're still only in this for the books, please check out Sounding, because I loved this book and I want more people to know about it. It's from 1982. I think it's very thorough. I think from what I've read about sperm whales, it's very accurate. It's not great only because it talks about sperm whales, but it's a really nice story too. So check that out. Get into whales. Sperm whales are awesome. Check out sperm whales. Check out Hal Whitehead's work. Check out Luke Rendell's work. Check out Shane Giroux's work. Check out the Dominica Sperm Whale Project, which you can find online. Thank you for watching this. I know this is one of the nerdier videos that I've done. It's a fun kind of nerdy. And again, if you're here because Bill gave me a shout out, thank you for being here. Check out some of the old videos, because there's different feels, different flavors. There's some fiction, there's some nonfiction in here, some older stuff and newer stuff. And I would be happy if you reach out and had any questions or comments or whatever, because that's really the benefit here, is interacting. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And if I was a sperm whale, I would say, maybe something like that. All right, thanks.